Howdy, howdy. Sunil here, and welcome to my Game 2 prep work for Shadow Online Gaming's tournament. This video will air after I played the match, but before the match airs. It's basically to go over the prep work that I did before Game 2, where I was going to play as the Greenskins versus Black Iron Battles Beastmen. So, unlike Shadow is very unpredictable. Black Iron actually has a lot of online games that he's played, a lot to go through, a lot of things to look at and research in preparing for this fight. So it was a wealth of information for me to go through. So I'm going to go through this. If this is not your thing to go through this part with me, I understand. The battle will be in very short order. This is just all the prep work I did. I'm going to go over my estimation of what his army would be. My pick for my army, I had a test battle, and I'm going to do a little bit of testing as well to explain some of the choices I made for my army. So this will be a fairly long video, and for those of you who like to go through the process, this video is for you. Those of you who don't, just skip this video, and the battle will be up hopefully very shortly after this airs. So Black Iron is mostly a multiplayer player. He has developed quite a bit. He's played with a lot of people. He's played in tournaments, and he's played a lot of 2-on-2s, free-for-alls. He has lots of experience and lots of battles online to look at. So I'll put some of his tendencies and talk a little bit about that, but I'll also put a couple of videos up, short clips of him in his own words, so you can kind of see what I mean and what my thinking is. One of the things about Black Iron when I was preparing for him is that in all his battles, he is incredibly strong in the pocket. So what I mean is micro is strong. He really pays attention. He is an outstanding Lord Hunter. And on top of being a good Lord Hunter, he feels that going after Greenskin Lords is even more important than normal. So I was extremely worried about this when I was doing my planning. He's also really good at cycling through magic and his abilities. He doesn't leave any winds of magic on the table in his battles. I've seen really good players like, even like Turin will sometimes have some winds of magic left over because he's focused on bringing all his units back into the fray and microing on the edges and stuff like that. Black Iron does not forget magic. He is often waiting for that clock to tick over so he can use his magic abilities again. So he's extremely good in the pocket, extremely good Lord Hunter, and extremely good with his cycling his magic and abilities. Some of the other things that I looked at and noticed in his army specifically is he does like a 2-deep or 3-deep deployment. He generally also, this is not every battle, but a very high percentage of his battles, he'll bring 2 cav, and he will always deploy them on his right flank. So that was on my thinking that if I'm going to bring cav, I'm going to deploy them on my left flank if I want to meet up with them. And when he plays he doesn't vanguard a lot, so he will generally keep a fairly narrow build, 2 or 3 rows deep of infantry or units and archers and stuff, and keeps a fairly narrow, straight, dead center, so you can expect him to show up for a fight ready to just brawl. He'll be right there, right in front of you, ready to go. So that was something else that was important in my planning for this battle. Based on a lot of the fights, he's played the Beastmen a lot, and the Lord he always picks is Morgor the Shadowgave. That is his. This is the on-meta Lord as well. Very, very good with that Spirit Essence of Chaos that summons the Chaos Spawn. So I absolutely knew I had to be ready for Chaos Spawn. And he often brings Foe Seeker on on Morgor for the extra speed, because he's only 39 and he is on foot, and he may bring the Call of Violence, but not likely. He will also bring the Staff of Ruinous Corruption, and I think he was probably very sad when this was nerfed because he was really, really good at using this staff, like maximizing how it was used in its previous. But he'll probably bring Morgor. Not probably, like I was quite sure he's going to bring Morgor. I've seen him often bring a Gorbel. So that is something that you're going to see in a lot of his builds, and he does go through the abilities quite good, like Deadly Onslaught, so he'll probably bring some abilities. Maybe bring the Banner of Fallen Knights, I don't know, something like that. Hard to say. Now, Magic, I've seen him play all 4 of these. Like, I've seen him play Shadows for that... oh, maybe this is the one I haven't seen him play. No, I don't think he's played Shadows with this. He's played Beasts, and specifically summoning Manticores. So I've seen him bring Manticores quite a bit, and he'll spawn them, and he'll go Lord hunting with them very, very specifically. So this is going to really affect my Lord choices. My 2 Lord choices on my side were Azeg the Slaughter, which I really like Azeg because you can put him up in the air on Skullmuncher, and Wurzag. Put him on his pig, and he's got this really, really good ability, which is where is it? Oh, maybe it's an item. Yeah, triggers map wide plus 13 melee attack, which is this Bonewood Staff is outstanding. So I had some choices to make there, and this will be the reason. So I've seen him play the Brave Shaman of Beasts and summon up that Manticore. I've seen him play the Death. That's the one I've seen, and that'll bring the Fate of Yuna and, you know, Spirit Leech. You know, he could bring Doom of Darkness if he's bringing that for the Leadership Bomb. And I've also seen him play the Bray Shaman of the Wild to bring that Cygor. In some of the matches I watched, I guessed that he was going to bring the Bray Shaman of Beasts and put him on a Razorgore Chariot. Sometimes he leaves that Bray Shaman on foot. Sometimes he puts him on a chariot. I thought he'd put him on that chariot against the Greenskins, and for sure bring that Manticore. So use that Manticore for hunting down Lords, and then possibly bring, you know, maybe another spell or 2 that was a little cheaper. You know, probably not that. So maybe like the Flock of Doom and Wisson's Wild Form, something like that, if he had Winds of Magic left over. And of course the Jagged Dagger, and probably not this Hag Tree. So basically I figured this would be his Lord layout, or his heroic layout. He does bring this kind of setup pretty frequently. Now in his Beastmen, he almost always brings Bestigors, 3 or 4. That's very normal. He likes to have a heavy infantry in his second line or his front line, and he will always bring spears, at least 2, to either make the edges of a Bestigor front line with spears on his edges, or he'll also bring like a Gore Herd with shields, something like that, and use these 3 guys in the front and these 4 behind. And Ungor Raiders does bring Ungor Raiders quite frequently, and in the trailer he has a really great fight where he forgets his Ungor Raiders in the back and they get attacked by cavalry, and it's so funny because he's like, oh no, I've done it again. He was really mad because sometimes, so I said he's outstanding in the pocket. Like, he is really, really good in the pocket, but he can lose edge control on Cav or behind him, just like me. I mean, that's where I'll lose my micro, is units that are behind me or on my edges. He's definitely better at his micro and remembering those units than I am, though. But he's really funny when he notices it, because he'll do live commentary, and it's fantastic to watch. If you're not subscribed to Black Iron, go and subscribe to my. I've said this, and I had a good long talk with him. I learned a whole lot from him. Very, very interesting guy and a really, really good player. So The Cav, he really does like these Chaos Warhounds. You see them quite frequently in his builds, and probably a Centaur with great weapons. Something like this is what I was thinking. You know, he might go with, maybe he can go 4-3 or 3-4. It's hard to figure out what he's going to do, but he might grab this, you know, maybe pull down a guy like that and bring in 2 Gorherds and use a little extra money somewhere else. You know, this is really the fundamental layout of his builds, and the way he deploys, again, he will either deploy 2 full infantry lines where he has the weak infantry up front and the Bestigors in the back, or a wider infantry line, a little bit wider, where he'll have the Bestigors in the middle and then the weaker infantry on the edges. But this is sort of the army that I expected and kind of what I thought he would have in his lineup. Now, I'll actually play a couple of video clips here just from Black Iron's channel, so you can hear him talk a little bit about the value he places on hunting down lords, especially against the greenskins, and a little bit about his deployment. You can see that that one set of deployment he does as the Beastman. So I'll play that now.
For you. And I wanted to show it to you, even though it's kind of short. I wanted to show it to you because it really does focus on how important it is to take out the greenskin leadership. So if you look over here, we are using the Beastman army, and we're facing off against the greenskins. And you'll see on the right, I have got these 2 groups of Chaos Warhounds. Now they're on one flank, and I mean, you guys have seen me do this a bunch of times by now if you're watching my videos. I always like to have some cheap spearmen on the flanks, or some miners if I'm dwarves. I mean, a unit on the flanks is just always so helpful. We'll go ahead and put the great weapons over here. We'll make sure they're in the forest. Go ahead and put these Chaos Warhounds with him. We'll put Mortar right in the middle. We'll put the Bray Shaman in the back. And over here on one side, we'll keep the Gorbel. Let's go ahead and...
So you could see a couple things. One, again, Cav on the right-hand side, very, very frequent. So I was expecting on his right flank there would be Cav, so I know that's where I want to put my Cav. But he does focus on lords, and he's very good at hunting them down. So this was a really big concern for me when I was thinking about how I was going to put together my army. Now, the 2 lords that I really considered were Azeg the Slaughter and Wurzag. I had a chance to play a few greenskin games, not a whole lot. Like, before I knew who I was, what Black Iron was going to be playing, I played a few online games with the greenskins, and they felt okay, and I was able to have a quick training match with Zardar, Total Warrior, who's also in the tournament on the other side. We trained quite a bit together. He's really, really good, and good for me because his micro on the edge is outstanding. So he puts a lot of pressure on me in our matches and really tests my ability to keep track of our units. But I will actually show that game now fairly quickly here, but I picked Azeg the Slaughter in that game, and I'd done some of the testing previous to this game, so I'd already done some of the testing on some of the units. I knew, for example, that Savage Orcs are just really, really good, or maybe I should just go through and do some of the testing real quick, and then I'll show the battle. So maybe I'll get Glacial Lake, and we'll just get a weaker kind of lord. Let me just do this. This way I can show you some basic testing. And this is one of the things I noticed is the Savage Orcs are really good against Beastmen infantry. So we'll get 3 Gorherds with shields, and we'll just get a War Boss, and get ourselves 3 Savage Orcs, just to go through and show really that lineup. They're 550, so the same price. So we'll just show how that lines up. I'd done some testing on Beastmen versus Greenskins, and I played this battle I had this matchup has come from 2 sides, because Janet is playing I'm playing the Beastmen against Janet's Greenskins and the Greenskins against Black Iron's Beastmen. So we'll just start this battle and get these guys going. And I'll just kind of get my lord over here, and we'll just kind of see how that fight goes. We'll see if I can get my lord on his lord. But you can see these Savage Orcs are winning a lot of these fights, and they do really quite well against the Gore herd. So my lord's not winning here, but all of my infantry is doing really well. So I'm routing his infantry off with the Savage Orcs. They're just a very strong choice in this matchup, and they're going to win all of these pretty regularly. So Savage Orcs are a really, really good pick in the matchup against the Beastmen. And we'll just concede defeat. I don't remember all of my testing at this point, but we'll go and just see how they line up against the more expensive units, these Gore herds. I think they still do pretty well against the Gore herds, which are a unit that is worth 100 more. Oh. Okay, I'll be right back. Alright, as I was saying, we're gonna put these Savage Orcs up against the Gore herds. Same fight. I can't remember, I did a little bit of testing. I never wrote anything down. I was just trying to get as much testing and understanding of the factions as I could, as quick as I could. But I think they do really well in this lineup as well. So we'll just get these guys going. Make sure they get on their targets. And we'll get our warlord there. Now, again, these Gore herds are a full 100 gold more expensive than our Savage Orcs, and you can see our Savage Orcs are at least even. They're winning some of these fights. They're having a bit of a problem with their morale, but yeah, they're routing them. So the Savage Orcs are just really good in this matchup, and the only infantry that is going to really be able to stand up is the Bestigors. So I knew the Savage Orcs were going to do really well in my front line. You know, if I came up against Spearmen or anything like that, they'll just be really crushing it. Yeah, you can see we won that despite having units that were 300 gold total less in that fight. So the other main matchup in this is really then our Black Orcs versus those Bestigors. So, and this will be important because I'm going to go over some of this from the opposite end when I go over my game with Janet on occasion as to why I made some of the choices that I made. So again, 3 versus 3. We'll go and start that battle. So you can just see the Black Orcs up against the Bestigors. The Black Orcs are just generally, they're just a really, really good unit. Bestigors are good too. Like there's nothing wrong with any of these units, but the Black Orcs are just a little more pricey. So we'll get them going, and we'll get our war boss here. And we'll just see them engage on the charge. And we'll see if we can get our war boss out of there just so he doesn't rout. But you can see again, we're winning 2 out of the 3 of these. And let's get this guy on here. It's close, but the Black Orcs are just better, is fair enough to say. And these Black Orcs lost, but you just look over here, we're winning that. We're gonna, they're close, but the Black Orcs are going to win most of those engagements, even if it's by a little. They are, though, a little bit more expensive. So knowing this, I was quite sure for my own infantry it was going to be a pretty easy pick. It's just some version of Black Orcs and Savage Orcs, and then something on the edges. Now, when I looked at Azeg the Slaughterer up on Skullmuncher, so I'm just going to show you this. I was worried about that Bray Shaman, I think, is it wild? No, it spawns a Cygor. I think it's beasts. Yes, so I know that Black Iron likes to bring this Bray Shaman of beasts sometimes, and I was quite concerned about it. So we'll just look at the spells. I just want to get rid of everything but this Manticore. And let's make sure he has good power reserves. Alright, so we'll get Azeg the Slaughter, and just with no abilities, just because I just want to do a straight up test, and we'll get a unit like, yeah, these guys have stock, right? Stock, okay. I'll just get a unit that can stock, just so I can hide them in the corner. So we'll just start that battle, and you actually have to attack the Bray Shaman before he'll spawn a Cygor against the AI, which is a little weird, but whatever. You just want to show you Azeg up against a Manticore. So Azeg has a little more speed than that Manticore. Okay. Put him over there. Battle. Okay, maybe I'll attack the Lord. Maybe that'll help. There. Okay. So now we got a Manticore. I'm just gonna get him up in the air, get that Manticore up in the air, and we will be able to see what that fight looks like. So we'll beat that Manticore. The Manticore is going to do a lot of damage, and this is with no abilities, no nothing. You can see the Manticore is going to take Azeg right about to half health. And just for curiosity, Azeg has 110 speed and poison. This Manticore has 85, so he can kind of get around that Manticore, but he's going to be able to get me down to half, kind of in that half health area. So we'll see if we can get another Manticore spawned. I don't know what the... Okay, there we go. And we'll get the fight going just so that we can see. So 2 Manticores are basically going to give Azeg a really, really hard time, and you gotta fight him or he's gonna kill. So 2 Manticores can kill Azeg, and there you go. So Azeg's gone, and away we go. So concede that and end the battle. So I was extremely concerned about using Azeg, but I really, really like the way Azeg performs. I really like his sort of, just the way he plays. He feels really, really good compared to Wurzeg. Now, with putting Wurzeg on the ground, I was really worried about these Chaos Spawn. So Chaos Spawn are a pretty tough unit, and so I was kind of, like I said, I was just really, really worried about the Chaos Spawn. So we'll get, let me see, get him, just a Beast Lord, and so I'll get a couple Chaos Spawn, and let me see, just so you can show, I did some testing on how I was going to try and defend against this Chaos Spawn, what I was going to send up against them. So I know they're large, so I wanted to look at a Big Guns versus Savage Orc Big Guns. Alright, and kind of see who's going to do better against those Chaos Spawn. So Wurzeg, I'll just, it doesn't matter, I'll just put him out there. Alright, so we'll check out that matchup, and I really wanted to make sure that I could shut down these Chaos Spawn and do a good job against them so that he couldn't use them for backline charge, because I know I'm going to see the Chaos Spawn. I mean, it's 100% guaranteed. So we got the Orc Big Guns and we got the Savage Orc Big Guns, and we'll just get Wurzeg on this guy, and we'll get that fight going. So Savage Orc Big Guns, just Orc Big Guns. Well, the Orc Big Guns did better in most of my tests. Oh, okay. Let's say the Savage Orc Big Guns are ready to go, but the Orc Big Guns, just the regular Orc Big Guns, did better in the vast majority of my tests by quite a substantial margin over the Savage Orc Big Guns. So you can see they kept on more of their health, and that armor matters against those units. So we'll go back and in the battle, we'll go back and take a look. 11 losses, 12 losses. They're cheaper. They killed them in about the same amount of time, but these Chaos Spawn don't have armor piercing, right? Well, they have some armor piercing, but the Savage Orcs have no armor, and these Orc Big Guns actually have 50 armor. So I wanted to make sure that I brought at least one unit of Orc Big Guns, no matter what lord I brought to deal with that Chaos Spawn. And I was playing with the idea of, okay, supporting against the Cygors. Let's just look Centaurs. We'll take a look at Centaurs versus and supporting with Savage Orc Big Guns and Orc Big Guns. I wanted to see, okay, how do those kind of line up? If I wanted to have some anti-large protection on my edges against potential Centaurs. So we'll just look at a couple of those fights. And what I found generally is the Savage Orc Big Guns really outshine the Orc Big Guns against these lower armored type of units. So we'll just start the battle. Get you in here, you in there. So again, we got our Savage Orc Big Guns on our right. And you can't use the Centaurs with throwing axes, and I don't know where they're going because the AI likes to act funny. Alright. But in general, you can see those Savage Orc Big Guns are just hanging a licking on those Centaurs. And the Orc Big Guns are, they're winning, but it's taking a lot longer. So those were kind of the two options I really wanted to consider for edge defense. And also, knowing, I'll show this battle against Zardar, but I also kind of was playing with the Mangy Marauders, a little bit of skirmish, some different ideas, these Death Creepers, and I do like the Orc Boar Boys, so I wanted to try the Orc Boar Boy Big Guns. So maybe we do instead of these just regular Centaurs, we can do the Centaurs with great weapons and just see how these two line up in a fight, just for curiosity's sake. But there's not a whole lot of cav that the Greenskins have that are anti-large. So the Orc Boar Boy Big Guns are pretty much it. So we'll just get them going, and we can just watch that fight and see how it lines up. So they do a ton of damage. It's a fast fight. Get over on them, boys. And you can see that they're generally winning. So the Orc Boar Boy Big Guns are going to do pretty good on the edges, and they are armor piercing. So that was also something in my thinking. So we'll go here, and that's just a kind of a bit of the analysis and testing that I did. I did quite a bit more testing, but these are the important ones to come up with the basic idea of either Azag on his flying mount with some Orc Boar Boys, just 2 units on the edges. Give some Savage Orcs, maybe like 3, some Black Orcs, and a couple of Savage Orc Big Guns possibly. And what else did I like on this? Oh yeah, I wanted some skirmish. So like the Death Creepers and the Morgans Mangy Marauders. I can't remember exactly how I put this army together, but something in around that line where I could put my Savage Orcs down the middle, my Orc Big Guns on the side, and have some Black Orcs and make a nice wide line. Have 2 Orc Boar Boys on the sides. Oh, shoot. This is something else that I didn't go over. Is the other thing I really liked is these Goblin Big Bosses. Because when I first started looking at these things, I'll just get rid of that slippery. When I first started looking at these guys, I thought you put a Goblin Big Boss with an Orc Boar Boy Big Gun, and you get that encouragement, and you put them on a spider. They're 78 speed. These guys are 62 speed. They'll be able to keep up, but they can poison anything they're fighting, and then I can have a unit of Orc Borboy Big Guns on each side with one Goblin Big Boss, and I thought that would be quite functional. So I'm just going to go over to the test battle I had with Zardar to show some of the training that I did. Alright, so this is basically one of the test armies I had before I did a ton of, after I'd done some testing against the units and before I'd done a lot of research on what I thought Black Iron would bring. I had Savage Orc Big Guns on those sides to help against Centaurs. Some Savage Orcs, Black Orcs, Savage Orcs, Black Orcs, Savage Orcs, and then Savage Orcs Big Guns on the other side. Azeg up in the air. And I have here Orc Borboy Big Guns with a Goblin Big Boss on this side, same thing on this side, and I have one unit, the Deaf Creepers, Forest Goblin Spider Riders for skirmish, and another unit of skirmish on this side. And that's my basic weapon now. Zardar is really good at deploying and kind of putting pressure on all sides. This is, we didn't really do a whole lot of planning, we just wanted to get in some test games. So I'll just show you the basics of how this game goes, but I wanted to have a look at having a nice wide line, and I could always push these Savage Orc Big Guns out to the edges because that's where the cavalry usually is, and then just engage with this infantry. So I'll get that engagement going. And Zardar's got a couple Cygors, some Ungor Raiders, some Spear Herd. He's got some Bestigors, 3 units of that, and he does have Morgor the Shadowgave, the Razor Gore Herd on both sides, and then these Centaurs with throwing axes are going to come in. So he's going to get some shots on me early. And, just for play, I just wanted to make sure I got up into those guys, and I push off these Harpies really, really fast with these Orc Borboys and these Mangy Marauders, and then I can just kind of push them up. I didn't even see these guys coming, to be honest, or these guys. Eventually I will, but I just want to push them up into the Cygors to get them to stop shooting, and bring these guys back into the battle. Everything's going pretty good here, so I'm going to cast the Wa, that 44 melee attack on my mainline engagements. Infantry is engaged nicely, and you can see these Savage Orc Big Guns are a little left over on the edges, to be honest, but they can kind of help protect. But you can send in Azeg, and he can just fear bomb. He causes fear and terror, and do a ton of damage really fast. I really, really liked him. And if I need extra support on the edges, I can always just, my thinking was I can always just grab these Savage Orcs, bring them around on both sides to help protect the edges. And Azeg is awesome. You just can keep moving him around. The one worry that I ended up having is this stinking Manticore. And you can get some pressure on him with these Ungor Raiders if they're going to shoot him out of the sky, but having some skirmish is quite nice in this, and these Orc Borboy Big Guns are nice with the Goblin Big Boss. Most of the infantry engagement is going just fine, so I know I can win that engagement just on the power of the unit choices. If there's no extra help, so you can see Morgor's coming in there, but you can grab Azeg, and I can just bring him in to support wherever I want when he's in the air. You got to worry a little bit because Azeg only has 70 armor, and these Ungor Raiders can do some work. But you could just support with your units, and okay, so they're going again. Now I've got to bring these guys back. But you can see I've got Azeg in here, and the Centaurs with throwing axes. The Black Orcs are doing just fine. Savage Orcs are running off, but they'll be able to come back, and can kind of put them in the line. But it wasn't much of a problem to clean up that infantry engagement, and I can just send these, like I said, Savage Orc Big Guns. Okay, just find the next target, the next biggest thing, bring in Azeg wherever I like, and he can cause the fear and terror. And this is just a nice sort of army. So I'll just kind of let it fast forward, but I really like Azeg a lot. So you can just keep charging, keep using his Wa, use his Fate of Yuna. I use the Fate of Yuna on the Spirit Leech as well in this battle. I like he has Lore of Death, so he's quite a powerful unit. Wurzag is also powerful as well. They're both quite good, but you kind of keep using Wa, and I'm going to get a little bit beat up, but just to show the battle and how this engagement can go with a very, very minimal amount of testing, really. A little bit of research, but we look at the end plates, and these Savage Orcs, 52, 88, 84. the Ungor 4806, these Bessigors 61, 61, 57. When you look at the Black Orcs, 117, 56. The Orc Boarboy Big Guns, 145. These guys got 0. They went after the Centaur. But 69 with the Mangy Marauders, 15 with the Deaf Creepers, 19 and 6 with the Goblin Big Bosses. And these Savage Orc Big Guns, 99, 42. They're solid. Azag, 20. 44 with the Cygor. 61 with Morgor. Morgor's so good. He's a really good lord. And, 58 with the Centaurs with throwing axes. So you can see that the infantry side, the greenskins are just better, I would say, and clearly so. So I wasn't terribly worried about that frontline infantry engagement. Just how am I going to... I'm going to bring some black... basically have some good advantage in the infantry matchup, so I don't really have to worry about it. One of the things, after I did some research on kind of Black Iron's alignments and where he was going to kind of fit, the way he was going to line up, was I became extremely worried that Azag was just going to get beat down. Get beat up by the Manticore. Centaurs with throwing axes are a possibility, though he tends to like just straight up cav on his edges. And he has the Ungor Raiders, so I ended up deciding on Wurzag. Put him on his pig and give him some backline defenses. So with Wurzag on his pig, he does have some great abilities. So improved power recharge, 11% physical resistance with a 40-meter range. Wurzag's Revenge, 50% miscast. I don't remember. I think I actually decided to bring that because I know Black Iron is so good with his magic, so I wanted to have that 50% miscast chance. Get back here, leadership, maybe Effigy of the Git, a good way to stop things. Yes, probably. I wasn't so sure. I wanted to be careful with my spend. Definitely the Bonewood Staff. So my idea was that plus 13 melee attack is just so good. I'm going to use it and improve power recharge rate. So Wurzag is really expensive, but he's really quite good. Now, I knew I had to protect Wurzag. I absolutely had to protect him, and I was worried about those Chaos Spawn. Because you get I'm going to face at least 2 of them, so I wanted Orc Big Guns, because they were really good against the Chaos Spawn. They weren't as good against the enemy Cav, but I really wanted to have a couple of Orc Big Guns in my back line to deal with those Chaos Spawn and protect Wurzag. So basically, Orc Big Guns in this lineup are just to protect Wurzag. No other reason. I thought about putting big bosses with my Orc Boarboy Big Guns, like these goblin big bosses. Where are they? Oh, yeah. And putting on the spider. You start running out of money at the end. You'll want to do too much. I figured he usually just has 2 units out there. These Orc Boarboy Big Guns should be able to handle it. And then they are armor piercing, and I can bring them to backline charge. Now, the one unit that I wanted to have in here for sure was also the Goblin Wolf Riders. The reason I just wanted to have Goblin Wolf Riders, in case he brings Ungor Raiders, I can just Vanguard deploy those Wolf Riders and hit them in the back, or save them to chase off routing units or whatever, and just have my 2 units of Orc Boarboy Big Guns, sort of like that. But I also wanted some skirmish, because I found the skirmish is quite powerful. It's a really nice bit of the game, and with Black Iron, generally his alignment is generally front and center, dead center, middle. So if I put some Forest Goblin Spider Riders right up front, I'll be able to Vanguard deploy them and put them right up front into the fight. And what was the map? What's the map? I think it is Fall of Man, excavation site. Nope. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but basically, I like the idea of being able to Vanguard deploy these Forest Goblin Spider Riders right in the front line, and generally I'll be able to get off good shots, and they're poison. Plus, if I'm chased down, I can just throw these guys in front of whatever's chasing down Wurzag, because again, Black Iron is a Lord killer. He's very good at hunting down Lords. You know, he will be able to find a way to get to Wurzag. So having these guys skirmish up front, and if he brings a Manticore, they can help shoot that Manticore out of the sky. They can help support against some of the low armored units of the Beastmen, you know, like Gore Herds or Centaurs or Chaos Warhounds, or even a little bit of fighting back against the Ungor Raiders. You know, they can shoot a Gorbel because he's tall, the Bray Shaman, even Morgor. He has 15 armor, but he has really good missile resistance, I think, 75. But they seem like a nice kind of pick, so you could basically put the Death Creepers in the middle of 3 and sort of align something like that. The last piece of this puzzle is, just let me pause for a second and come back. Alright, I just pulled up my actual army because I've saved it, and the battle's going to be on Castle von Rauken. So here I have what I think Shadow's army is going to be. Basically, I've got 3 Savage Orcs. I know they're going to do really good against his chaff. The Black Orcs, which will do good against Bestigors. And these Orc Big Guns are going to do fantastic against the Chaos Spawn. The Goblin Wolf Riders, just on the edges to go up against the Ungor Raiders, if they're there. And just to pick up routing units, and these Forest Goblin Spider Riders for early skirmish. Now for Wurzag, I put him on Spleen Rip because I wanted to be able to get him away. Because again, Black Iron's going to come after my Lord. He's a very good Lord Hunter, and he places a lot of value on killing Greenskin Leadership. Now for the abilities, I brought everything but Effigy of the Git. I figured these Orc Big Guns were going to be enough to defend my back line, along with these Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers. So once they're in the back line, I can always throw them in front of something just to get in the way to help protect Wurzag. So I didn't take Effigy of the Git because I just wanted to keep Wurzag away. For the spells, I want to trigger this Bonewood Staff as much as I can. That plus 13 melee attack and plus 18% charge bonus for 17 seconds. So for the spells, I actually brought some cheap spells. I really like the Foot of Gork. It's quite powerful. Here we go. Really like it too. It's quite powerful. But my idea was to use that plus 13 melee attack with my infantry that's already better, my Boar Boys that are going to be better than the Centaurs, and use that to win. So I just brought the Fists of Gork for plus 26 melee attack and melee defense for casting on Black Orcs. Brain Bursta, which is just an explosion, which isn't that great, but it's only 7 winds of magic, and it's going to proc that ability. And Gaze of Mork, again, only 5 winds of magic, not super powerful, but I can use it on his Bray Shaman to just use that ability to proc the Bonewood Staff. So that was the idea. So I'm just going to go into the battle. You know, not going to fight it, just to show kind of my alignment thoughts for this fight and kind of my thinking, how I'm going to deploy and what my plan is for the battle. Now, okay, so the nice part about this is I can take these Forest Goblin Spider Riders and put them right up front, and they're already just about in range. Like, I know Black Iron likes to go front dead center, so he's probably going to be right in front of me. Was my thinking. I can grab these Goblin Wolf Riders and just deploy them out here for those Ungor Ungar Raiders and just bring them over. The basic infantry line, I want these Orc Big Guns back in my rear line with Wurzag. I do want Wurzag to cast the Gaze of Mork early on that Bray Shaman, and then to take my Cav. Now I know he's going to deploy on the right hand side, like not always, but very, very frequently he'll deploy his cavalry on his right hand side, so I want the Boar Boys out here. And where's my other boy? So I want my Boar Boys out here just to go right up against his cavalry. And for my front line with the Black Orcs and the Savage Orcs, I just wanted a nice wide front line, so that I could, basically get my Savage Orcs engaged, and potentially when I engage, because I know he generally lines up a little narrow, be able to use these guys just to flank around the edges and win this engagement that's going to happen. The cavalry engagement's going to happen somewhere out here. Try and win that engagement and then use my Orc Boar Boys to go and back in and support or come around, kind of like that. So, and then wherever those chaos spawns go, I'll just take my Orc Big Guns and collapse on them. These guys will skirmish away and slowly work their way back. Eventually, my front line, when it's up here, these guys will be behind. The Forest Goblin Spider Riders will be behind to also support in that back line if he comes hunting for Wurzag. So I could use Wurzag to kind of support up front, get off that Fist of Gork on one of these units of Black Orcs. So basically have sort of a strong side and a weak side, if you will. So I wanted to put my strong side with the Black Orcs on the same side as my cavalry, so I could really support this side, win this engagement strong, come in the back like that, and even if I lose this side, I can win big on this side, and I have Wurzag up here. So that's sort of my plan for this fight. I think that the infantry for the Greenskins is just better, straight up. These Orc Big Guns are really, really good against that Chaos spawn. Worried about Wurzag getting beat down, but these I really, really like these Goblin Wolf Riders. They can just come in and support, and these Orc Boar Boy Big Guns will get the job done against Chaos Warhounds and the Centaurs with great weapons, or just regular Centaurs or something. They're going to do well and win that side, and then after that, so that was my plan going into the fight. So just to reiterate, I guess to summarize, in case you saw the first part of this and came to the end to hope for some sort of summary, with Wurzag, I did take this 50% miscast chance, Wurzag's Revenge, because I know Black Iron's extremely good at his magic use. Probably going to summon that Manticore to hunt down Wurzag. I can shoot him out of the sky, or at least poison it with the Deaf Creepers and the Forest Goblin Spider Riders. The Orc Boar Boy Big Guns can win against the Centaurs. The Savage Orcs win against the basic frontline, plus they're going to have that plus 13 melee attack when the Bonewood Staff or Wurzag goes. The Black Orcs beat the Bestigors, barely, but they do. And these Orc Big Guns are really, really good against the Chaos Spawn. So that's my plan. So, don't really have much else to say, but that's my plan for the fight. That was my thinking as I put this army together, based on some of the testing that I did against the Beastmen infantry and their Cygors, and there it is. So I hope you found that interesting. Love to hear some comments or some thoughts before the battle. The battle will air within 12 hours, I think, of me releasing this. I can't remember exactly the time schedule. I've got everything on, and you'll get to see the battle, and then hopefully I'll get an after action report in there to break down the battle afterwards. So, hope you found it interesting. Love to see some comments, and I will see you soon.